Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. Summer's here, folks. You need to be in a lot of places. Maybe you don't have to worry about school as much anymore after this week, but you got to worry about errands, being at the pool, keeping the kids happy, going outside, maybe traveling. You got things to do. Go to simplydoneconcierge.com. Tell Mary what you're looking for so you can be in two or three places at once. Mary and her team will help you. Simplydoneconcierge.com. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Welcome to Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and the surrounding towns, have 33 chapters and about 640 people that meet every week. And our goal is to help each other grow our business. And our local small business success story this week is Anna Hartwell with Hartwell Financial Group. Anna is in the Wake Forest Power Hour BNI group that meets Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. at the Wake Forest Coffee Club upstairs, Wake Forest Coffee Company upstairs. So if you're ever in the area, want to meet some very good, very experienced professionals and networkers and just some all-around good people, please go visit them. Anna, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Love when we have planners and process people on the show because I'm marginal at best on those. But Anna is a financial advisor. I think that's the correct way to explain. You're an advisor, right?
I am an advisor,
Because
yes.
there are other titles or designations in the financial world, depending on.
There's all sorts of designations
Okay,
and titles depending on what somebody does. Wealth manager, financial planner,
that planner. Okay,
financial
gotcha.
advisor.
Yeah.
I am a financial planner, and I'm also a wealth manager, but I just refer to myself as a financial advisor.
So I've learned quickly about you. I never had to ask you this, but based on the series numbers of things that you hold, you're a pretty good test taker, right?
Oh, I'll tell you what, during those tests, I get nervous. I don't enjoy test taking, so I can't tell you if I'm a good one or a bad one, but I will tell you I passed them.
There you go. It's like it's like in golf. I don't know if you're a golfer, but with golf, it's like I made par. I don't have to tell you how ugly it was that I hit the windshield of a car in the parking lot, bounced back out in the fairway, but I made four. So,
There you go.
were you a good student in school in general?
Well, I'm actually in school now.
Oh,
I'm working. So when I was younger, I was one of those kids that could just show up and then kind of pass the class and not do a whole lot, which I'm not proud of,
mm,
but that's where I was at that point in my life. But I'm actually working towards my bachelor's degree now in economics, and it's a lot to juggle owning
yeah,
a business, and we'll talk about some other things later. But I've got a
yeah.
lot going on, and it's a lot to juggle. But I'm doing well, and I'm really proud of myself. I've got one more semester. I'll graduate at the end of this year. So
Well,
yeah,
good.
fairly good in school.
Congratulations. And now I lovingly refer to you and your type as curve busters because I would get an 81 on a test. And back when I was in school, an 86 was a B, not an 81. So I was hoping that the brainiacs would get 95. The teacher would round you up to 100, which would give me the 5 points to get me to a B. But yet you and your kind would always get a 99 and ruin the
Curve
curve.
buster.
So, yes, I admire your kind, but I get frustrated at times because I was lazy and didn't do my work. So, financial advisor in BNI, it's interesting because we do elevator pitches every week. And we try to explain what we do, but what we do and what we do for people are really different. I know in your world, the number of stories you have to tell about the lives you have changed just by sitting down, not really talking about the money they've made, which helps, and I know you do, but just putting together a plan for them. I was reading some of your uh, uh, reviews on the website, and I got to believe that's one of the best things about doing what you do.
It really is. I think I always say that's where the true gratification of what I do comes out. It's more rewarding even than giving somebody a really great return in their portfolio, because this is where they can see the immediate results of our work together. And I love that.
Yeah, and you have one of those seats in BNI. Anything with health or wealth can be very uncomfortable conversations to have because the last thing we want to do is tell people I'm flat broke or I don't have a plan or anything like that. So I know that's where you come into play because a lot of times you probably have to drag it out of people.
There's so much emotion tied to money for really good reason, right? If you um, don't have money, you don't get the right education for
Mm,
yourself or your children, can't eat healthy diet, you can't have fun necessarily in the traditional ways or the ways that your neighbors are having fun. There's so much emotion and then stigma tied to money.
yeah.
And so people will come in and they're afraid to reveal where they're at. They say, I should have, I should have known better. I should have started earlier. Yeah, all these shoulda, coulda, wouldas that come into play. And it's really, really important for me to convey to them that doesn't matter. Life is messy. Nobody is perfect. And everybody has stuff that we're not pleased with,
Mm,
stuff that we wish we would have done better. None of that matters. What matters is that you're sitting here in front of me today, and we're going to talk about where you're at and where you want to go and how do we get there. And we're going to remove the judgment because the judgment is not fair and it's not
mm.
warranted.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you on that. So you've been doing this long enough to know you're in a conversation with a first time, we don't even call them client yet, just a first time conversation with somebody. When do you see the light go on with them to realize, okay, I'm not as bad as I thought I was, or however they get to judge themselves, but then realize it's like, okay, I think I can get somewhere with a good plan.
I mean, I think the conversation around life goals versus returns is what really gives somebody traction because money and returns in your portfolio or growth in your portfolio are great, but if you don't really have a visual path on what you're going to do with that and how that's going to translate into your life, then it's just fictitious or it's a number, it's not tangible. So when we have those conversations around life goals, that's when the excitement starts and that's
Yeah.
when they really, you know, engage.
Because I think most people, I mean, I think the average American knows a couple people that we would consider rich, but I think most of the people we know are comfortable. Maybe some are well off, but most of them are, not living paycheck to paycheck to a point, but they have to keep an eye on things. So if you wanted to take a trip or you wanted to do a home equity loan to pull out some money to fix up the house because you know you're not moving, that's where people are either what I don't have enough or can't, and their fear is they're never will be able to do it.
They don't know how that withdrawal is going to impact their future.
Yep. Yeah.
And so that's where, software analysis, cash flow analysis, and things like that come into play. But you're right. I mean, that's the biggest fear is I don't want to run out of money.
Yep.
And so can I do this? Should I do this? Is this the right time? And those are where the guided conversations really come into play.
Yeah. And we don't. My wife and I, we have three grandkids, and we do our best to keep an eye on the 401ks and all the investment and retirement stuff like that. But a lot of the times is like, hey, wouldn't it be fun to go see? Because our youngest granddaughter lives in Florida, in Lakeland. So sometimes, like, hey, wouldn't it be fun to go see her next month and not have to move, rob Peter to pay Paul, basically?
Mhm.
And I know that's
Yeah. And
where you
I like
yeah.
to, what's that?
Go ahead.
I was just say I like to set up buckets too, right? So you can like
Yes.
designate certain buckets of money and where
Yep.
things go, and then it takes a lot of the pressure off too, because you can just say, "Hey, let's go to our vacation bucket and let's see what's there." And then maybe this is a spontaneous trip, and we had already planned on doing something else with that bucket. Now we have a
Yeah.
decision to make.
Yeah.
Do we want to trade this for that? Do we want to add more to it? Do we want to scale back? And whatever, but then it just makes that decision a lot easier because you've got money set aside with a purpose, and now you can make a decision.
Did a lot of times people, when I have conversations with folks, they got into a certain industry because there was an influence somewhere earlier in their life. Was there a money management, financial advisor type influence in your life growing up that led you here?
A little bit. There's two factors that come into play. One is my grandmother and my father very early on told me about, their 401ks. And at that time, the IRA was new. And they were telling me about this and how important it was to set aside early and how well it had done for them. And so, right out of the gate at 21 years old, I went to work and I had this already in my mind that that was something that was important. Then I sat down with a financial advisor in my office at my employer, and that person explained my 401k plan and how it worked and how I should never withdraw from it because I'll get a penalty. And then my HR person sat down, they explained my benefits, and it was all very, very guided and clear and simple. And then later, I switched jobs, and now I'm in my 30s, and I go to work, and I get here's the 800 number, here's the website. We've got multiple options for
Yeah.
everything. We've got multiple options for your investments, we've got multiple options for your benefits. And nobody was there to guide me on how these things work. I had to figure it out for myself. And then I noticed that other people in the office were doing the same thing. And I always found myself saying to people, hey, why aren't you using the flex plan? I see that you're wearing glasses, or
Mm.
didn't you tell me that your daughter was getting braces, and things like that. And then I would hear them like over the cubicles asking each other about the investment options and how they worked. And I realized that we don't have that face to face like we used to. We are now given these resources and tools, which are beautiful and robust and great, but we are given these things to go figure it out for ourselves. Not everybody is a financial advisor. Not everybody can figure it out for themselves. And even if they can, we don't really have time to be an expert in the field of finance when we're the expert in our field of choice. And so I really thought it was important that I be able to sit down and kind of help people, guide them along this way, because I feel like so many people were making mistakes on things out of fear,
Yeah.
on things that are really, really simple when you understand them.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
always
kind of
dreaded
how I got
the
into it.
yeah,
What's that?
I always dreaded the here's the employee handbook. Why don't you read through that and let us know if you have any questions? Like, no.
No, I don't even know what questions to ask. I can't even process
Oh
this
no.
information, and I don't have time. I'm working and raising family and doing all the things.
Now the other thing that makes me chuckle is I'm one of those people you don't want to work with when there's only cubicles involved because I just can't talk quiet. So everybody hears what I'm saying, whether I'm trying to be quiet.
So everybody knows you don't know how to use your flex plan.
Pretty much, yeah, and they hear all my phone calls, they hear like, yeah, so, but, yeah, I only had a couple jobs where I had to sit in a cubicle, but I just dreaded that, and I told people around me, from day one, "I'm sorry, I'm trying." I did like going back to your website, I was looking at some of your client results because it's different for everybody. Some people want the money, like, I'm in small business ownership for flexibility. Last Wednesday, I went down to South Carolina. My nephew graduated in the drill sergeant school for the Army. As a business owner, I'm able to do that. If I work 9 to 5, now I got to ask somebody, I got to take time off. So that's why I like in your world, the client benefits, because everybody's got something different. So one of those, and I didn't think of this, I got to be honest with you. It said that one lady you worked with increased her credit score. And I'm like, God, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, those clients are the most fun to work with, right? And so yeah, she was a great client. She had recently been divorced. She bought her dream home, and she said, "Oh boy, I think I made a mistake, and I don't know if I have to sell my house, move in with mom, get a roommate, move in with mom and rent my house. Like, I don't know what to do." And we just repositioned some money. I taught her how to save some things. We looked at her credit score, and all of those things really came together in a really great way. And she was able to increase her net worth and reduce her debt and increase her credit score in a very short amount of time. And that was really empowering for her. And she was able to stay in her house, which was also great.
Nice. Yeah, and the credit score thing, my wife and I started doing this a few years ago. Just look, you can get a free copy of your credit report. There was stuff on there that wasn't accurate, and that was affecting our score. We got to the appropriate people, took care of it. It was probably a keystroke error somewhere, but it affected our score. And once we got that straightened up, our credit score went up, and that's all we had to do. So, highly recommend people doing that.
I had one client, we were going over her credit, and I said, "Well, what's this?" It was like $15,000, I think a Gap or something. And she's like, I've never shopped at Gap. I don't
Yeah.
even know what that is. And so I dug deeper and I said, well, it was from this year. And she said, when I was 4. And I went, whoa. So then we found out that somebody had taken credit out in her name. Now, luckily for her, that person was responsible and paid for it.
Oh, wasn't that
Uh,
nice?
yes, that was a bonus because that doesn't always happen. So, yeah, you never know what you're going to find in your credit.
Yeah. And again, with all the people they have to track and all the transactions, it makes sense. But yeah, once we looked at, so when I read that on your website, it's like, oh yeah, been there. That makes a whole lot of sense because that factors into them wanting to buy that next house or even car or whatever. So I,
It also factors into what kind of credit what your rate will get,
mhm,
obviously, right? But that can make tens of thousands of dollars of impact on your
yeah,
on your life, depending on what you're trying to do. So credit is
yeah,
important.
yeah. So I like your buckets. I've got a friend of mine who has envelopes. He's got 2 envelopes underneath his driver's seat. Both of them have cash in it. That's the only thing allowed in there is cash. One is for gas. One is for, he calls it incidentals, but the way he operates, it's only for emergencies. But there's probably 300 in each. I don't know if it's wise to keep cash in a car that might burn one day, but that's beside the point. But he has those envelopes, so in an emergency, and he needs $100 for the tow truck driver, it's there. So I like your buckets. How many on average do I get if I'm a client of yours? How many will you let me have?
How many buckets do you
Yeah.
get? That's a great question, actually. So on personal finance, you don't really want too many, right?
No.
Because then you've got money going all over the place and it doesn't make sense. So probably, maybe 5, depending on what you're trying to do, vacation. Um, I have one personally, it's future car. So I make a payment to
Ah,
so I can buy my car for cash, right?
very
So
nice. Right.
um, do things like that. When it comes to your retirement savings, that would be more probably 3 to 4, so short term, midterm, long term, maybe a vacation fund, something like that.
And whether we're in small business or not, we generally forget to pay ourselves every month. Going back to your bucket, something. And that's kind of where one of the ways we get behind, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a great book, Profit First,
Mm,
that I would recommend anybody read. And it's about how do you set aside for your expenses and then how do you pay yourself. And I think it's great because as business owners, to your point, we've got money coming in and out all the
mm.
time. And if we're not strategic about it, it can get away from us, right?
Yep.
And so, how much is realistic to set aside for operating expenses and how much do we keep for ourselves and then how much do we set aside for taxes? So Profit First, great book, and it will help you kind of as a good starting point strategically allocate your money
Yeah.
coming in so that when the tax bill's due, you haven't borrowed from it.
Yeah, and just in general, it's just a good idea to know where it comes from so you can grow your business, but where it's going. Because I know you've met with business owners. They're like, "Boy, Anna, oh man, the first 5 months have been awesome." And you sit down with them and look at stuff, and they got like $1.87 left. They're like, "I don't know where it all went."
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I see that a lot.
One of the other things I like on your website is your tip of telling people to check the background of their advisor. Now, I like that for 2 reasons. One is it makes perfect sense, and again, we don't know what to ask for about a financial advisor. Are you, oh, you have your licenses, the state says you're okay? Oh, you must be good. Not always the case. But I like it even if you're not, if that client doesn't come to you, you've given them good advice moving forward if they talk with someone else, like, look for these 3 things or 4 things, whatever it is. So I applaud you on that. We get we have a carpet cleaning company now, and years ago, when I was in business with my brother, we had a commercial cleaning company, and we knew we were bidding on jobs going against people that did not have commercial insurance. We knew that. We couldn't prove it, but we knew it. And every now and then, when I got mad because we lost a bid, I said, "Look, I understand prices, everything, but make sure they have insurance. So if they flood your building or your office, you don't have to pay for it."
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, and to your point about, looking for the right financial advisor, it is important to make sure that they are well-rounded and that they are looking at all the aspects of your life, not just your asset, right?
Yep.
So you don't want somebody that's like, hey, I'll take your statement. I know exactly what to do with that. Yeah, I
Yep.
see that a lot actually, and it's really unfortunate. You want somebody that's really looking at all of the aspects of your life, your credit score, your insurance, where are your risks and and where are your opportunities, and then helping you develop a strategic plan to address all of it.
Yeah, because if I come to you and a 24-year-old just married person comes to you, we're looking for two completely different things. Their whole life is in front of them, and I got 3 grandkids to spoil, so your one product serves all is not gonna work.
No, not at all. No, I kind of like use like the car an example for that, right? So if somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, I live on an island and I'm retired and I just, need a little something to get around town or something, and I've got my Vespa and that's working great, but I really need something just in case I have a passenger or it rains." Well, I'm not going to give them, a Ford F-150.
Mm,
But if they come and they say, "Hey, you know what? I'm a builder. I'm not a serious builder, but I'm a builder as a hobby. I like to do these things, whatever. And I need something to get from point A to point B, but I also need something so I can throw a bunch of stuff in the back." I'm going to give them an Ford F-150. Does that mean that the Ford F-150 is bad? No. If I give it to the person that needed the little two-seater whatever Prius, and I sold them a Ford F-150, that was a bad sale, but
mm.
that's not a bad product.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so I hear, right? So
mhm,
I hear a lot in this industry, this is bad and that's bad and never do this and don't do that. And that really burns me because that is bad advice. That is all about them trying to lead with their agenda so that they can sell, so that they can get something. And it's fear based and it's steering people away from something that may be good for them. And so I would always steer clear of anybody that says never, don't as a blanket statement. Always have to have individual advice.
yeah, because you I don't one of my favorite educational moments in BNI is don't spill all your candy in the lobby. And that's directed at financial advisors and insurance people. Hey, Mike, here, after speaking with you for 7 minutes, here's the product you need to purchase.
Yeah.
No, no, no. You just listen to me for about 30 more minutes and then we can talk some more. So, but I'm with you on that. All right. So you are from California by way of Syracuse, New York, and I think maybe a couple other stops.
Yeah. Yeah. I was born and raised in California in the Bay Area. My dad was in the Coast Guard. I was born
Ah,
at the Oak Knoll Naval Base there. And that's why we were there. We were the only family. And then in 87, we moved to Erie, Pennsylvania. And that was quite a shock.
and cold too, wasn't it?
It was cold. It had snowflakes bigger than my head. I'm telling you, it was really not something I was thrilled about.
Was that the first time you saw snow?
Well, my grandparents on my dad's side lived in Syracuse area,
Okay.
and so I visited them in. I think yes, I probably had visited them the December before.
Okay.
And that was the first time I'd seen snow. So no, this was the second time.
But this was the first time you had to get around in it.
Yes, yes, yep, and it was not fun, and Erie gets a ton of snow and it gets
Mm.
cold.
Oh, yeah.
They get that lake effect, so
Yep. How old were you when you moved to Erie?
I was a junior in high school, 16.
Oh, did you learn to
Yeah.
drive okay on snow?
Oh, yeah, it was fun. I could, spin the car out. I knew how to get around those corners.
You can always tell the new people when it's like, dude, that's ice. That's why your tires are spinning. Don't gun the car. And they're like, oh, I can handle that. It's like, well, the first second your tire connects with the pavement, you're gonna crash. And they're like, ah,
That
no, I,
black ice is
yep,
scary.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah. But I'm with you. Snow
yeah.
is fun. We didn't get much growing up here in Raleigh. We get, you know this. You live here long enough. Like 1 year it will snow, and 2 years after that it won't snow that much. So, but I enjoyed driving on the snow, and we'd find a parking lot and do what you did, just do donuts and laugh and try not to hit something. Because you never wanted to have to get home and explain something to your folks, right?
Mm-mm. No, that was my brother's job. I always knew just when to reel back.
Now, which one of your three kids? How do they fit with your? Okay, I'm gonna wait for them to do it, and then I won't get in so much trouble.
Say that again?
Your three kids, which one thought more like you, and which one thought more like your brother?
Oh, well, my middle daughter is the one that like would just push me all the boundaries, all the boundaries. She was the one that would, climb to the top of something,
Yeah,
just no fear.
yeah,
Those climbing walls and all that stuff, no fear on that one. My youngest one is the one that like she knows when to keep it in check.
yeah, yeah. There's always that one kid that's like, yeah, yeah, I can climb up that.
Yeah, always.
Now,
Yeah. And then my son is pretty conservative, so
okay.
he's pretty good.
So your oldest daughter, how many times because she climbed had that no fear? How many times she have to go to the hospital for broken bone or stitches or anything?
She broke not very often. She only broke, I can't remember which kid broke something. Yes, okay. It was her. She broke her leg, 2 years old, jumped off something and broke. Yeah. Uh-huh. So that was the only time she broke anything.
Wow.
But
And
the
when
scariest time,
so
what's that?
real quick, so when did you know her leg was broken?
Oh, that poor baby. That was sad. So we had traveled from Erie to Syracuse to see my grandmother. It was a 4-hour drive.
Oh.
And we were playing, and she jumped off the porch, and then but she seemed to be okay,
Mhm.
but she was getting cranky. So I made her take a nap because we had just gotten off this trip, and I just thought she needed to take a nap. And then when she got up, she started getting cranky again. And when I went to have her stand up, she kind of crumbled. I thought, oh no. So we took her to the emergency room, and the doctor said, "No, I think she's fine. I don't think she's broken anything, but we should probably x-ray it."
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was broken. And I felt so guilty as a mother. And he said, "Listen, I'm an orthopedic,
Yeah.
and my son broke his arm, and I didn't know." He said,
Yeah.
"You can't always tell." But I
Yep.
felt pretty bad because I made her take a nap first.
But that was the when she got cranky, you put them down for a nap. You don't know why they're
Mhm.
cranky, but yeah. So now I'm with you on that on both sides. Feeling bad, but that's what we always do. So yeah.
Yeah.
And I that back when I grew up, I'm a couple hours older than you. Let's just leave it at that, okay? Our dad would say, let's go rub some dirt on it, get back in the game. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't visibly broken. Nothing was protruding. I didn't have any way of knowing.
Oh man, you must have just felt sick on that. But so how long did it take
She's good
her?
too.
So did they put her in a cast?
Yeah, they put her in a cast. She was in a cast for the summer. This little 2-year-old walking around with her cast. It was,
And then as a parent, you're pushing around the neighbors like, don't look at me like that. I did not push her.
mm-mm, no,
Oh man. So the Coast Guard life, how long was he in the Coast Guard?
4 years. And then
Okay.
after that, he went back to school and got his bachelor's degree and was a teacher. So we lived in California during
Okay.
those times, but just 4 years in the Coast Guard.
All right. Did he like that?
I think he did, but the job I think he loved the most was he was an engineer on a train. He drove
Oh.
trains, and that's the job that he really
Oh,
talks a
cool.
lot about.
That's an
Hmm.
old school job that boy, 2 generations, 3 generations ago. Well, we always loved um the trash truck. We didn't want to drive it. We wanted to hang off the back and jump off before
Yeah,
it stopped and grab the trash can and you try to jump on it when it's going. My friends and I thought, oh, that's what I wanted. We want to do that. But yeah, the train conductor, train engineer, that would be cool too. Was
yeah,
he gone?
yeah.
Was he gone a lot?
He was, yeah, a lot of out of town trips.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Huh? Did you get to ride with him any at all?
Well, one time we went from the Bay Area somewhere to Sacramento,
Mm,
and that was really cool. But that was on a passenger train,
okay.
so I never got to ride in that locomotive.
Okay. Cool job, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
both of them, Coast Guard and the engineer. I thought that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
so do you have a love of water because of your dad being in the Coast Guard?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
Not a
No.
beach. Never was a beach, but well,
I mean, I love the beach. I can swim, but I'm not a strong swimmer.
yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I do love the beach, but I'm not one that's always in the water.
You're on the beach.
I'm on the
On the beach,
beach.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I've
I'm a
my
reader, so I'm on the beach with my beach hat and my book.
yeah. My wife and I have that conversation. She wants to be on the beach. I want to be at the beach. So if we can
There you
find
go.
a second or third floor balcony that overlooks the beach that I can wave at her while she's on the beach, we're both good.
There you go. Yeah, I'll go put my toes in the water a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
And then come back in and go to chapter 3, right?
yeah.
So you are here's a cool thing I found out. I love doing intel on my guests coming up. You are a house director for Sigma Phi Epsilon at NC State. All right, so two
Yes.
questions. Explain the role to me. And second question is, how did that come about?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is probably one of the most rewarding things that I've done in all of my career. I really, really enjoy this. So let's start. How it came about was I had a friend in Syracuse that had done this role for Syracuse University for about 22 years. And she was always telling me that she thought that, that I would enjoy it and that I would be good at it. And she's been telling me that I should really do it. But, I was building a business in Syracuse and never really felt like it was something that I wanted to pursue. And then always wanted to move down south. I was waiting for my youngest to graduate to figure out where she was going to go before I decided where I would move. But I knew I wanted to move down south and I knew I wanted to get out of Syracuse. And so when she graduated, I started to think about this house director role and how that would be a really great way to get me somewhere so I can feel it out before I commit, right? I don't have to sign a lease, I don't have to buy a house. And so I went onto the NC State website and applied for the role and got it. Now I did back up for my friend at Syracuse, so I had some experience with the role. And then when I was selected, I moved here, but I really didn't think that I would be here very long. I just thought that I would come and kind of get a feel for the area and then start my business and then, um, you know, move on. But I really kind of fell in love with the guys. They are just really good guys, and I love the role. It's a lot of property management, so that's really easy, right? It's just walking the property every day, identifying things that are either wearing out or are an actual problem, and then getting somebody to come in and take care of it. I talk a lot with the chef. I want to make sure that the chef is happy, that she's putting out food that the guys like. She's a great chef, but just because you're a good chef doesn't mean that you're putting out something that they like. So I really want to like kind of be that liaison because she's the face to them, and they really like her, and she's feeding them. So they're not always going to give her feedback on what they like and what they don't like, but they'll always be honest with me when it comes to that. So that's a good liaison for the guys. And then, just kind of keeping an eye on them, making sure that they're having a good experience in the house, that they're happy, that they're not getting out of control. There's always checks and balances, and they're young men and they're away from home for the first time. So I want them to have that experience of being independent and being away from home without the risk of doing something that could be catastrophic. Obviously I can't control everything, but
Yeah.
it's all back to relationship.
How often are you at the house?
I live here.
Oh, well, that was a stupid question. I probably should have put two and two together. Okay, well, that helps. That answers the next five questions. All right. So that helps a
Yeah, not
bunch then.
necessarily a stupid question, but I mean, you don't think of a,
No.
you know, a financial advisor living in a frat house.
Yep. Yep. But it allows you to develop those relationships so they know they can come to you with any issues or just kind of chat about something.
Yeah, and then I'm just kind of here, so
Yep.
just even having that presence
Yep.
here
I
kind
agree.
of keeps them in check, right?
Yeah. Very cool. Huh.
It really is cool.
I guess you never thought 30 years ago you'd be a house director, huh?
I didn't even know it existed.
I
It's
didn't know it
like
existed till I read on your bio.
they have conferences and everything. Like it's a big
Oh,
industry.
really?
Mhm. Mhm.
Huh. All right. I like that. I like that. So, all right. So, what was the best thing about going to Hayward High School?
Oh, you know what's different about the high schools in California versus the high schools here, or at least the high schools in Syracuse and Erie? There, they were one big concrete building, right? Because you have snow and ice
Yeah.
and all the elements. There, it was almost like they were all individual buildings all over the campus. And so that was really different. Um, and I really just I like to be able to go from, because you're outside a lot. I'm an outside person. And so just being able to like walk from one class to the other, you're walking across like this beautiful campus and you're getting, some outside air exposure. And so that was really great. I had good friends and people that I grew up with. So I think that was the best of it. I wasn't into sports or anything like that. So um, that's pretty much it.
I like the separate buildings because we call them trailers here. There's one big building and there's about 22 trailers, some of which have air conditioning, some didn't.
Yes, I was gonna say trailers, yeah, because so I thought in my mind that they were trailers.
Yeah.
But then when I went back recently and I walked the campus, they were not trailers like I thought they were. They were actual like brick buildings or something,
Yeah.
concrete probably. Um, but maybe some of them were trailers when I was there. They could have been temporary.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I've seen a high school with more than probably two buildings, but that is a big change. That, and you're right. In Syracuse, you need one big building to protect you from the elements, and that you don't have to go walking in 2 feet of snow to get to your next class.
Yeah, right.
So, were there breakout impromptu snowball fights at school in Syracuse?
I don't remember anything like that. No,
Okay, all right. You probably hung with the right people then. So,
probably.
there's a group of guys that probably started them, but you never saw them because they were always in the principal's office. So,
Yeah, yeah,
another thing I found, if I've got this right, you did. I think it's back in April. You did a TED talk at State.
I did.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Tell me about that.
Well, that was an interesting experience because it's something I'd never done before, but I always wanted to do. I have always felt like I've got this message inside that I wanted to share with people that it's not just about math, right? It's also about mindset. And so I had this opportunity to do a TED talk at NC State, which I'm really grateful for. Um, that was a lot. And one thing that I really learned was that um, it's different to present and then speak to influence. And I don't know if you know, but I just bought a business at
Hmm.
the beginning of this year. And so a financial business from a retiring advisor. And so it all came together at the same time. And I was going to school for myself. I was in the middle of transitioning clients to my broker dealer, and I was trying to work on this TED talk. And I'm not making excuses, but I'm not super thrilled with the result of my talk. It's really disjointed, and I ended it abruptly. But I conquered a fear, and conquering fears is something that's really important to me to make me realize that this whole thing in my head that I'm always afraid is, going to happen is 95% of the time not true. And the 5% that it is true, it's still not as bad as you
Yeah.
think it is. So, yes, I did a TED Talk. I'm not entirely thrilled with it, but I'm still glad I did it. And it's the first of many.
Yeah, that you're right. That changes a lot of things. And the next time someone calls and says, "Hey, we've got this group convenes in Dallas. There's about 900 people. Are you up for presenting?" And you're like, "Absolutely. Send me the ticket." Right?
Send me the ticket. I'll figure it out.
Yep. I like that a lot. So the new business, when did that become a thought in this business arc of yours?
Oh my gosh. So I've always wanted to buy another advisor's practice, but I've spoken to several and things at the 11th hour just never seem to come to fruition. I met this person in probably November of last year, and it came together fairly quickly. It came together at the end of January.
Wow,
Um,
that was fast.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if I remember right, the last time I saw you, you had told me about this. And do I have it right that a lot of that person's clients love to come into the office and chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting office. I've got people bringing in Brunswick stew. I've got people just
Oh,
sit down and chat.
yep,
I mean, and it's lovely. It
yep.
really is lovely. It's a small town and it's really charming. And I love that sense of community. It's hard sometimes to stay focused because there's a lot going on. Or they'll stop and ask for money or they'll stop with deposits. And there's a lot of activity going through that office for sure.
Interesting. Yeah. And you probably have
Yeah.
to work out more with all that Brunswick stew they bring you too, which is worth it.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, yeah. That's when you talk barbecue. I'm a pulled pork guy. I grew up here. So when I moved to Texas, we had barbecue, which wasn't barbecue because it wasn't pulled pork. And then I asked them where the Brunswick stew and the hush puppies were, and they almost made me leave. All right. So had a bunch of people watching and listening here today, probably have some financial questions. First of all, we've been putting Anna's phone number up there. Please feel free to give her a call. You want to talk with someone who can see this from a different angle than you, because we're like, oh, and Anna, I thought you summed it up early on, spot on when you said, well, I meant to or I should have. And that's where an expert in their field can help you. So give her a call, set up a conversation. Just you need to hear it from someone else. But do that. So we've been putting her phone number up there for that. So what's a good tip for somebody? They processed everything we've been talking about. We're early part of June now. So we're looking at the second half of 2024. What's something, a tip or two for them to start looking into or looking at or planning for the rest of the year?
Most important thing is just having an idea of what your cash flow is. I have so many people that come to me and they say, "Hey, I've got all this, I make good money. I've got all this money coming in, but at the end of the month, I don't know where any of my money goes." Tracking your finances is super, super important. It's about accountability and then it's also about clarity. It's not about strict controls necessarily or putting you on a super strict diet that you can't follow. But the step one before you do anything else is really understanding how much money is coming in and where your money is going. I have some tools to do that. There's online tools. You can do a pen and paper, an Excel spreadsheet, however you want to do that. But that I would say is the absolute number one thing that you should do.
And I'm a big fan of either writing it down or typing it into a spreadsheet. But the minute people look at it, and you've seen this, they're like, "Oh God, I didn't know it was like."
Yes, yes. People don't realize
Mm,
how much those Starbucks add up. Poor
yep.
Starbucks. They always get the
Well, at
get the
12
shot right.
bucks, yeah, 12 bucks for a medium, they should get that grief.
Yeah, and
But
then
yep,
eating out. I mean,
yep,
those are huge tickets. And even when we know we're spending a lot of money, we don't realize how much we're
yep,
spending until you
yep.
start to track that.
And the eating out thing is a very interesting one because most people, I think people could easily go through $300 a month eating out. And you're right. Well, we only do it a couple of times a week, but they don't talk about watching that add up. And all of a sudden, if you look at that, treat yourself now. Maybe it's just once a week or something like that. Yeah.
$300 a month is almost $4,000 a year.
Yep. That's a new
Now,
car.
that's
Yep.
fine if you can want to do that and you can do that, and that's all great. But that's also going back to clarity and priorities,
Mm,
right? So somebody hands you about $4,000 at the beginning of this year. Are you going to say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to save this so I can go out to eat all year"? Or are you going to say, I wanted, whatever,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's not that it's right or wrong. It's just really understanding how much things cost and where your money's going and what your priorities are so that you can really um, have it all in some respect, right?
And we will pay for things. And
Mhm.
again, not a problem. But if you want this lifestyle and this bucket costs you this much, where are you going to downsize in another bucket where it gets to that? Because a lot of people pay for clothes, pay for travel, they pay for food, not a problem. But where's that going to balance out so your number stays the same?
Yeah, and maybe you don't scale back. Maybe you just make more.
Ooh, there's a good idea. I like that. Money we can make, time we can't, but money we can make. So,
That's right.
anyways,
Yeah.
folks, there's 3 good reasons why you need to give Anna a call. Anna, what's your website? Maybe they want to check that out first.
It's www.hartwellfp.com. That's HARTWELL, F like financial, P like planning.com.
Excellent. All right, folks, go check that out. There's some things you need a really, really smart expert for, and money's kind of one of those. So, anyways, give Anna a call or check out her website. I know you'll benefit from it. Anna, good luck with the new business. And
Thank you.
thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
And we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.